Inanna Returns Chapter 8. The Temples of Love. The mouth of the Indus River was the center of trade from the east at this time. I set my mind and the divine emies to work creating business and trade between Sumer, Babylon, Egypt, and the Indus Valley. I love the treasures of Terra, and I have a gift for business. I am a born trader. My temples were offices of exchange which served as places to barter and deal in various commodities as well as halls of learning and worship. I invited my mother Ningle to help in designing and building my temples. She has a passion for architecture, and she brought along her close friend Maya, the most famous architect of our time, to plan Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. Maya had already designed other temples in Sumer, but Ningle, Maya, and I set about to surpass previous creations. The three of us built such remarkable and beautiful structures that I knew and Antu came to marvel at them. I've always been fond of lapis lazuli. Its deep blues accent my skin tones nicely. But there was never enough of it to build entire temples. So I asked Anki to develop a substitute in his laboratories. In a short time, I had as much lapis as I ever dreamed of, and I covered the floors of the temple, the columns, and the roof tiles with this new faux lapis, my gift from Anki. Marble and gold were tastefully blended with turquoise, malachite, and lapis in geometric rhythms. I also invited Tara to help me in the temples. Tara is the wife of my friend Matali, Anki's pilot. Matali doesn't think much of my family. I suppose he has known us gods too long. He prefers to put his trust in the snake people, and so he married Tara, his beautiful snake princess. Tara's lineage goes back on the planet Terra further than any other. Matali says the snake people are far wiser than those of Nibiru. He has told me magical stories of their kingdom deep within the planet. It is said they play with frequencies we do not understand, and the acquisition of material power does not interest them. What I did understand was that Terra could dance better than anyone I had ever seen. I knew Tara's dancing style would attract merchants from all over the east to my temples, and she would be a great asset, so I invited her to train my temple dancers. Tara is a lovely woman with creamy pale green skin and dark almond eyes that twinkle like stars in the night sky. Strings of black pearls and gold beads cover her firm, bare breasts. My friend Tara helped me to establish a grand and flourishing culture. I also invited Nin Hersag. It had become Nin's passion to stay up in her pyramid and administer healing to her beloved Lulas. Her love and compassion for all living beings made her our greatest physician. She had a staff of wonderful nurses who assisted her, but I knew she was lonely. She spent far too much time with that son of hers, Ninurta, which wasn't good for either of them. You know the type of mother who gossips endlessly with her son about the rest of the family. Well, that was my Nin. I wanted Nin Hersag to set up what you might call hospitals, but we consider your modern medicine absolutely barbaric. We work with thought forms and frequencies, not drugs and scalpels. Being the only unmarried matriarch on Terra was taking its toll on Nin, and I loved her. She was even aging ever so slightly, though she would never admit to any of this. Nin presented herself as crisp and competent as ever. Only I knew better. I was feeling a little lonely myself and saw how bravely she carried on. Watching Inanna Returns' life coupled with my own experiences was beginning to give me a feeling for women. As time passed on Terra, the men in my family were becoming more and more dominating. It was as if the very atmosphere of this remote planet was somehow changing us all. In the Pleiades, women are revered as symbols of great goddesses and treated with respect. It is strongly forbidden by Palladian law to strike or rape a woman. Earth's frontier frequencies seem to bring about a shift in this tradition. Our men were developing a new attitude to the female half of the species. The sons of Anki, led by Marduk, created laws forbidding women certain freedoms in their territories. I was naturally angry and upset by these ridiculous laws, so in my lands I emphasized the empowerment and enhancement of female energy, and I decided to teach the Lulas some of the Palladian mysteries. When Ninhursag and Anki created the Lulas, they left a few key components inactivated. Although the Lulas and all the human born of them, including the present-day inhabitants of Terra, possess our genes, some of these genes don't work because some had been purposely unplugged. The Lulas were taught to call my family divine, but we were hardly that. The children of Anu are eternal adolescents, and words like ambitious and greedy might describe us more accurately. We had intentionally left the genetic codes of our worker race only partially functional so they would be easier to manage. I knew I could not interfere with the workings of the Lula's DNA, but no one could stop me from teaching them certain secrets. And since thought creates reality, I hope a few of my priestesses or priests might fire up the divine genes present in all Lulas and thus instigate their latent evolution through hormonal secretion. In your present time, the Samkhya is all that remains of Palladian wisdom. Samkhya is a Sanskrit word meaning to enumerate. The concepts of Samkhya suggest that matter is organized out of two primary components, consciousness and energy, which interacts to create the universe. It is a conscious, focused thought that moves the frequencies of energy to form themselves into the myriad infinite play of all the worlds. Physicists in your present time are approaching this understanding, but they are missing one component. That is love. Not the kind of love you have experienced as humans, something limited and unpredictable, but love as a primary force. It would never occur to a modern-day scientist to quantify a state of consciousness such as love, but that is the secret. Love is the missing piece in all of the unified field theories. It is the love from Prime Creator that is the first cause of this universe and all other dimensional realities in existence. Do not, your great ones, say that love is the greatest of all qualities. Yet, it is too simple, too obvious for most. So I taught this Samkhya in my temples. I taught my girls and some of the men who wanted to learn how to use their beautiful minds and bodies to bring this force, the force of divine love, onto Terra, into our cities, our fields, and our children. It was a wonderful time for us. Business thrived and the women were allowed to own property and to keep their wealth separate if they chose. Thus, no one owned them. Both sexes were sovereign unto themselves, and the men were equally happy. There was a flowering of civilization and arts. Our fields were abundant. Trade was Sumer and Egypt was booming, and the arts of dance, song, painting, and sculpting soared to new heights. Reports of Maya's architectural achievements spread around the world. Of all the rituals we initiated in my temples, the ritual of marriage was the favorite. The priestess would dress and prepare the bride, who was educated in the arts of pleasing her husband and the ways of ensuring conception when it was desired. The husband was also prepared and instructed in these matters. In those times, it was common knowledge that the greatest pleasure was achieved by arousing the female to a height of ecstasy. The bride became the channel for all the feminine energy in creation, and the husband became all male energy. Their union allowed the forces of Prime Creator and the Great Goddess to express on Terra. The secret of this sort of union is focus. We trained the couple to attain intense concentration by gazing into each other's eyes while they were joined in union. Every cell of the body, every awareness of the being must be in the moment. Every thought must be focused on the now. A woman must not hope to achieve higher states. No, a woman cannot hope to achieve higher states of consciousness in union if she is fretting about the grocery list or some other nonsense. Reflecting on the past or worrying about the future only weakens the experience. We formulate wines and elixirs to enhance focus for those who require a little help, but our greatest practitioners require no assistance in their grand focus. The energies they generated assure the fertility of our agriculture and the happiness of our people, and often healed the sick. One aspect of my Indus Valley was the love and veneration of animals. We used elephants, oxen in our trading business, and we became fond of our animals that we honored them in our temple. Well, yes, I had reserves. I had reserves created for the old ones where they could retire in safety. They were loved and protected, visited frequently by children. Many of the Lulas still possessed the gifts of speaking with animals, and these were sought after to train and manage elephants, water buffaloes, oxen, lions, gazelles, animals of all sorts. To this day, my eyes fill up with tears as I remember my pet lions. These two creatures loved me with all their considerable hearts, and they were a great blessing to me. The wisdom they taught me will always be with me. The male lion allowed me to ride on his back through the streets and almost never left my side. The female guarded me with the fierce instinct of a mother. Surely I never experienced greater love and loyalty than that which they gave me. After a few hundred of your years, the excitement of being in the Indus Valley and creating a new civilization there began to wear thin for me. Business was great, the temples were built, and my priestesses were so well trained, they could easily run things without me. My friend Matali was flying me back and forth to the Sumerian cities of Uruk to check on grain deliveries and such. I miss being in Sumer. I miss Egypt and Ankhi's Abzu. My cities were less sophisticated, and I didn't have a spaceport with access to the orbiting stations. I felt stuck in the hinterlands, and I had no husband. Matali said I was lucky not to be married to any of my relatives, being that they were in his estimation. Bemusing my dilemma, a wonderful idea occurred to me. Back in Uruk, Anu was bestowing the powers of kingship on some of the more shining Lulas of that time. Anu delegated limited powers to those who would rule the cities and city-states. He gave Lulas dominion over those human affairs which held no interest for us. Kingship was becoming an important new part of life on Terra. Why shouldn't I be the one to bestow this power? If I could talk Anu into letting me take over, he wouldn't have to bother, and he would have more time for himself and for Antu's parties. I knew Antu would like this idea. Antu had always loved me, and I had put her face on the statues of the goddesses in my temples. Being Anu's sister gave her unquestioned power, and she had political connections throughout the galaxies. Her liaisons were textbook classics. Antu never seemed to mind Anu's constant stream of concubines. I always suspected she knew how to place herself into states of ecstatic consciousness. She is such a happy woman, filled with what you might call joy de viva. To convince Anu and Antu that I was right for the job of choosing kings, I built a temple in Europe. The temple itself was dedicated to Anu. Deep in the interior, in the most important area, I placed a bed of solid gold with Antu's name beautifully and noticeably engraved upon it. The bed raised on a dais and magnificently adorned with fresh flowers and flowing silks. This temple in Europe was called the dwelling place of Anu, but the bed enshrined within symbolized to everyone which woman Anu listened to. That's a touch, or what a touch. They both loved it. When I asked to be given the right to grant kingship, they agreed. It was understood that Anu would be informed of my decisions. My great-grandmother Antu was delighted at the prospect of my new career, and what better way to find a husband? This brings us to an end of chapter 8. When we return, it will be chapter 9, and that is titled Marduk and War. Man, don't forget to follow me on IG at wisdom_is_jah, J-A-H basically. Yes, on IG. Follow me. And thank you for coming out. God bless you. Good night. Free Larry Hoover.